My upgrades are Invincible, Chapter 92, Fan Fiction, by Azazyel. The weight of the heavens was crushing all within the room. Ouranos' domain of the heavens, the sky, and dominion was crushing the rioting dungeon's wrathful turbulence. But that fury and power was also being directed towards the two divines and their captains that were forced to hunch over under the furious gaze of the Primordial God. I am not amused. I am not a kind God. I am not a God who came down to this world to fix mortals' heretical mistakes. Ouranos spoke coldly as his glowing eyes glared at Maxim, who stood before the god. Only bowed at the knee as he kept his back straight, even as blood leaked from his nose, eyes, and ears at the pressure weighing him down in particular. I allowed the crafting familia incident to pass by without censure due to your potential, Maxim. I allowed you to enrich your familia and prepare for your great quests. But you have tested my patience for the very last time. The room remained dead silent as Ouranos chewed on his thoughts before saying coldly. The guild has two ironclad rules for the dungeon. Don't feed monsters. There are monster stones to make aberrants as that will always lead to trouble, as you well know. And lastly, don't take divinity into the dungeon due to how it will make the dungeon itself riot. I am here on this lesser world to save it from the dungeon. Without my presence, the dungeon would continue to expand. It will continue to send unending tides of monsters into the world through the main entrance and the water tunnel, and the entrances I myself was able to block. Ouranos leaned in, and there was a haunting pressure on his old male appearance as he said calmly. I do not need to do this thankless task, Maxim. You are not special in all reality. With my power, and a couple of others, I could just remake the lower world, shatter this one, and let the dungeon's festering hate of dead amalgamated gods and monsters break down in the void of non-existence. Zeus and Hera were both startled at Ouranos' words, but in return, the sky god snorted and said flatly. What? You lesser gods come down to the mortal world and just treat it as a vacation. While I must spend my every moment fighting the twisted souls of the dead gods and divine monsters that have been cast down to the mortal world during the conflicts between the gods and Tenkai? Ouranos simply said bluntly. My patience of sitting on this throne for the last couple of millennia is wearing thin. Maxim, your actions show a sheer disregard for myself and the other adventurers as well. Zeus finally spoke up while grimacing as Ouranos' divine might focused on him. What will his punishment be? There was a pause as Ouranos considered it before he smiled. But it wasn't a proud or even victorious smile. It was a smile of satisfaction as Ouranos said. I considered stripping your fauna from you for a period of time to make you feel worthless. But that is no different from killing you with the number of enemies you have, so I have already decided in either case how to hurt you. Maxim frowned as Ouranos said, hurt you. It was clear that the Primordial God wasn't interested in merely punishing Maxim for his actions. No, this was a direct smackdown that was purely a punch to the nose in order to remind Maxim that he was still just a jumped-up mortal. While Maxim was also still aware that even should he become an ageless divine after reaching level 10, he would still be laughably weak in comparison to Ouranos, so he just squared his shoulders, and even as his knees popped under the weight of Ouranos' gaze, he said proudly. Do what you will. I will not shirk punishment for my failure. Ouranos' eyes did not show any praise for Maxim's bravery or any positive emotion. Merely bored disdain at the mortal who had caused him so many issues, but not enough that the issues had yet outweighed his future use. You will be stripped naked in the city square, and then, while my domain of the sky crushes you into the pavement, you will be flogged like the man-child you are by the Empress. Who wouldn't have let the Empress ban a ruined melon and sent 4 gods back to Tenkai? Ouranos finished with Maxim's jaw tightening. Why is my dash? Hera began hotly before she shuddered as Ouranos' cold eyes laid on her. And without any inflection in his voice, Ouranos said coldly. Zeus is your pet project, isn't he? Keep him and his mortal toys on a better leash. With that, Ouranos' voice deepened as he announced, with his voice exceeding the meeting room and into the next room where the emergency donatus was happening. My patience with childish gods and their arrogant children has reached its end. Perhaps I myself should treat myself to a vacation, and you can deal with the dungeon flooding the world with monsters. Ouranos' form was then shrouded in darkness before the shadows retreated, with his old form being gone, and Zeus and Hera alike sagged in place as Albion stood up, and the elven beauty gave Maxim a bland look and said, "Well, thunder of Jupiter. Let us get this show done with. I have better things to do than beat a human child who did such stupid things." But then again, maybe there is truth to the worst of the elves saying humanity never lived long enough to have any true wisdom. Maxim himself stood up with a snort of steam escaping his nostrils as lightning cracking between his hands before he relaxed and said coldly, "I am only 50 years old and at the edge of level 9. You are over 500 years old and are still level 9. An imperious eyebrow rose at Maxim's words before Albion smiled coldly and said, "And yet, I might as well be putting you over my knee like the disobedient child you are, with how you are a fifth of my age. Come now, little Maxim, I have to play at being your disciplinarian in front of all of Oreo."